friends. Hello friends, welcome to Soulful Spinning. My name is Lisa, and this is my channel where I sit and chat about all my adventures in the fiber crafts. Mainly knitting and spinning, but I do a little bit of weaving and quilting as well. Haven't done embroidery for a while, no minimal crochet. But yeah, I do a lot of spinning, a lot of knitting mainly. So yeah, welcome to my little corner of the world here, the corner of the internet. So this channel is named Soulful Spinning because for me, creating with my hands and making things is very soothing to my spirit and my soul. And that's where I came up with the name Soulful Spinning. This channel was just designed to keep me company with you and to keep you company as you go about your crafting. I watch podcasts, for entertainment, for information, for company. When I was very young, my mother used to listen to the radio a lot. And she used to listen to this channel where there was an afternoon show, and there were these two ladies, Kathy and Judy, I think their names were, and they would just chit-chat, interspersed with news, etc. And I feel like the YouTube, these types of channels sort of serve that purpose as you're spinning or you're knitting or you're sewing. Sometimes you just want to hear a human voice. And so that's the reason I've made the channel. I've been podcasting for quite a while, pretty much on and off for, well before 2016. So all that to say is to say welcome to my space here. And thank you so much for all your support, all your encouragement, all your suggestions, and sharing your knowledge with me as well. So I hope you find this episode enjoyable. It's the new year. It's the 12th of January, 2024, and this is my first episode of the new year. And I hope you had a wonderful holiday season. I have quite a few things to share with you today, basically a lot of works in progress. I don't have any finished objects to share with you today. I've been astonished and amazed at the output of some of the makers in the community, what they can make in a year. So I don't know if you've been watching any of those. Everything I knit in 2023, I was gobsmacked by all the incredible output of makers. Very, very inspiring. So, but I think it can also lead one down sort of a rabbit hole of feeling like we don't measure up. I know I tend to do that sometimes. But, as Ruth said from the Ruth Loves to Knit podcast, she said, comparison is the thief of joy. And I had to look that quote up. I thought it was in the Bible somewhere, but it actually isn't. Comparison is the thief of joy is attributed to President Theodore Roosevelt and others. And it evokes a powerful sentiment that can be life-changing. For if we compare ourselves to others, we may be left with feelings of inferiority or superiority, and neither creates an emotionally healthy human being. So I do try to take those videos as inspirational, not as setting an example for something that I would be able to follow. We're all on this journey, and we all have to embrace our own pace with our, I think Stephen West said that, embrace your pace, and not always feel like you have to measure up to some artificial standard. I feel that way with the channel too. There's just so many people producing content, and some have incredible editing and music and zooming in, zooming out, and sound effects and everything. You don't usually find that on my channel. You'll find knitting, spinning, a little chit chat. I like to share books from time to time. I do book reviews, and I usually insert some sort of making in the channel. So in today's episode, I have quite an extended clip of me preparing some rolls of fiber on my blending board for some support spindle spinning. As usual, you can find timestamps in the description, so if you want to just jump to the parts that you're interested in, or you want to revisit a certain section of video at a later date, you can always do that. So all that to say, here I am. I've got a lot to show you today, and let's get started. So I have a hand spun sweater in progress. And here it is. Many of you have been following me for a while, and you know that in September of this 2023, I went up to Wisconsin Sheep and Wool Festival, and I picked up an 8-ounce bump of fiber. It was a Coopworth cross and 85% Coopworth cross and 15% bamboo blend from Laura Matthews at Psalm 23 Farm. And I spun it up into a very thick singles yarn. I was aiming for a Let Lopey weight yarn. I got something just a little bit heavier, kind of in between a Let Lopey and a Alafos, the thicker yarn. So of course 8 ounces wasn't going to be enough to make a sweater, so I did contact Laura, and she was able to. I was able to procure. I think I got 10 ounces more, so I had plenty to make this. So this is the Felix cardigan by Amy Christoffers. She's Savory Knitting on Ravelry and Instagram. A very well-known pattern. There's a cardigan version, and then there's a pullover version. And I'm knit the size 2 on a US 10 knitting needle. And I did things in a little different order for this cardigan. I actually knit this cardigan before out of the recommended yarn Green Mountain Spinnery. And it's upstairs in a bag. And the sleeves are done. The body is completely done. All that needs doing is the button band and the neck band and the sew on the buttons, which actually is not a small thing. That's a major part of the construction of the sweater. So I didn't want that to happen with this one. As a matter of fact, I have that on my January goal list, is to finish that other cardigan, that Felix cardigan. I'll show it to you next time. So I was really intimidated by that finishing aspect of it. So as soon as I finished the body, I went ahead and I picked up for the button bands. I have temporarily stitched the buttons on. I'm very proud that they are evenly spaced. I followed the directions to a T. Picked up 2 out of every 3 stitches along the button band, and then she has you measure and then divide equally. And I was really happy that everything's pretty even. These buttons look like they might be leather, but they're actually a plastic button that I picked up from my local yarn shop. So I'm really pleased with them and how they're looking. I did tubular bind off, or the Italian, not a tubular bind off, but I did an Italian bind off. The effect is the same. I did it on all the edges, including the, let me show you here, the bottom. So an Italian cast off gives you this really nice sort of invisible edge that just, the 1x1 ribbing just appears to roll over. It was quite time consuming. So I did the bottom, and I have that down now. I don't have to look at the directions anymore. I also did that same sewn bind off on the button bands. I'll show you this on the other button band here. So here you can see, and you see there's no, and then I also did it on the neck. So I thought for this one, I'm going to do a provisional cast on for the beginning of the cardigan. So I cast on with some cotton yarn using a crochet cast on, where you chain a bunch of stitches and then you pick up the bump and then you start knitting. And I had a heck of a time getting the neck stitches off that provisional cast on. I used a nice smooth yarn, a nice smooth cotton yarn. But this fiber is so sticky. You can see here, even in the camera, how it has this sort of almost like mohair like halo. And this was sticking like you would not believe. At one point I was cutting out the provisional, the waste yarn. I'm like, why, oh why, oh why did I do this? But once I got it, I was really happy because look at the inside of the button of the collar. There's no seam at all. And but the funny thing is you cast on 65 stitches. Oops, you can't really hit me. Move this over. You cast on 65 stitches, and when I picked up the button band, I only had 64. So I'm like, what happened to my other stitch? What I think I did, the first row, I think, of the pattern, once you cast on, has a yarn over somewhere at the top. You see it's got these little lace raglan. I guess raglan was named after a person. I never knew that. I'm going to look that up. So yeah, raglan. So it has this kind of thing going on here. So I figure I must have just, when I was fiddling with picking up the stitches, I must have either knit two together or I, lost a yarn over or something. It was a little nerve-wracking. I had to take a long walk after I was done because it was a little bit frustrating. So I'm really chuffed with myself that I have those finishing details completed, the button band and the neckband and even the button sewn on, because now I'm just having fun actually with the sleeve, just plain knitting. So I have finished the decreases on, I think this is the right sleeve, and I've got, I don't know, probably 5. I think I'm at about, I want to knit it to 15 inches and then 3 inches of ribbing for an 18-inch sleeve. So this jacket I have on today is just a commercial merino boiled wool. It's even got like faux patches here. I think it was an Orvis, this is an online shop, Orvis purchase years and years ago. I used to wear it as a teacher. And I really like the sleeve length on this. And this one's 18 inches. So that's where I'm going to go for this. Yeah, it's been a very enjoyable knit. I knit the whole body on a beautiful knitting needle from Lantern Moon. Lantern Moon has been acquired by Knit Pro. They used to be like a separate company, but I knit the body on these beautiful ebony needles. And I have other pairs of Lantern Moon fixed circulars before they were purchased by Knit Pro, but these newer ones have a much, in my opinion, a much smoother join here from the needle, and they also rotate, so things don't get twisted up or anything. So these are one of 2 pairs of size 10 or 6 millimeter needles I have, because I went to find my 6 millimeter needles after the holidays to start to finish up the sweater, and I could not find my 6 millimeter Lantern Moon needles anywhere. I'm not the most organized person, but I do have all my knitting needles in a hanging file box, and I'll be darned, I could not find them until I realized that I had them in another project. I had started the Sophie shawl, which I'll show you in a minute, and my set of knitting needles were in the Sophie shawl. So I did purchase the second pair, which is, I know that's ridiculous that I bought another pair, but you can never have too many knitting needles, in my opinion. Yes. So yes, and also one of my Christmas presents, Christmas present to me, is this set here of Lantern Moon interchangeable needles. This is the small set, and these go from, I think these are 3.25, 3.25, 3.75, 4 millimeter, which is a 6, a 4.5, which is a US 7, and then 5 millimeter, which is a US 8. Beautiful silk case that these came in. And so what I'm doing is I have a size 9 and a 10, a 5.5 millimeter and a 6 millimeter fixed circular that I'm just storing with this little case here. But it came with this really nifty this helps you secure the tip. It's like a tightening tool. And then there's these beautiful wooden stoppers, which I thought were really, really neat. So Lantern Moon. So very, very beautiful needles. If you like wood needles, I highly recommend these. They're just really lovely in the hand, and very beautiful, beautiful to work with. So yes, I'll have to get these sorted. But yeah, it came with a little tassel. It came with some stitch markers. Yeah, so I was really, really happy. It's one of my acquisitions over the last month or so. So yeah, so what else can I say about this? I'm just really pleased. The mildly thick and thin nature of the yarn is creating a very interesting, you can see that it's not a very smooth yarn. It's lumpy, bumpy, but not extremely so. And I think that once it gets a gentle, cool water block and lay it out, I think it's going to be just really, really beautiful. It's going to have a lot of character and one of a kind, item. So I'm pretty monogamous working on this sweater, and I have lots of yarn still here. So I've got this huge cake here, and this one. And then I'm using a yarn bowl my sister gave me from Christmas. And I'm knitting the sleeves actually on double pointed needles that are also wooden. And these are also ebony needles. I was lucky enough some years ago to purchase a bunch of needles from a gentleman named Sam Bolton. His name, Montana Mountain Crafts, I think. And I have a lot of his straight needles in different exotic and domestic woods. And I have some of the double points, and he made these for me. They're ebony wood, and they're treasured for sure. I love wood needles. So, I like the fast metal needles too, but the wood needles are just really special. So yeah, that's everything about my Felix. I will have this done next time I record. I don't really make a lot of New Year's resolutions, but I have put it in my planner that I would like to post a video once or twice a month, just to keep in touch with everybody. So the other knitting project that I have been working diligently on are my hot cocoa socks. So Charlotte Stone came out with this pattern shortly before Christmas, and I purchased the pattern and I knit up one of the socks here. It's got this darling hot cocoa. You can see it's cocoa with whipped cream. So this is the first sock. The brown yarn is from Haw Patch Yarns on Etsy in the Umber colorway. The white is Filtered Light by Madeline Tosh. I think it's one of her sock yarns. The red is from Punk Rock Unicorn in the lipstick colorway. And then the green is Deep Stash. That's a discontinued yarn. So I finished. I know I have a big foot. I knit this before the color work. I knit to 7 inches, then did the color work, and then did the toe. So yes, I'm a Euro 42 or a woman size 10 and a half here in the States. So this sock is a little tight over my heel. I can get it on, but it's just a little bit tight. And I mentioned that in the last episode, and some kind viewer told me to go up to a 2.75 for the color work. You also increase from 64 inches, 64 stitches. That would be a big foot. 64 stitches to 72 stitches. And so I knit this color work section on a 2.5. But for the second sock, I took the viewer's suggestion, and whoever, thank you so much. I forget who it was that told me that. So this one is the second sock. I'm working on the foot. I like to knit my socks with magic loop or double points. I always cast on with double pointed needles, and like right now I'm using magic loop because it's just the front and the back. But when I was doing the gusset decreases, I was on double pointed needles. And one of the things I really learned in knitting these, of course, this one is going to be slightly bigger, and that's okay. Most likely they're just going to sit in my drawer anyway. Don't, I don't really wear my hand knit socks that much. But but what I did for this one is I paid. First of all, I learned to manage my floats a lot better because there's some rounds where you have 3 colors, and that was kind of I got tangled up quite a bit. But if you notice here, you can see. Let's see if you can focus in on there. The snowflakes here are way more defined in this sock than this one. You can see. So what happened is I think I wasn't keeping the yarns in the correct or in the same position, and I really learned that when I was knitting this. I finished the mugs, and I was knitting this little stripe here, and I noticed the red wasn't popping out. So I ripped it back, and I made a point of holding the red in the left hand. I use sometimes I use 2 hands to knit color work, or sometimes I drop the yarn. Use a variety of methods, but I kept the red yarn to the left so that it was always coming from underneath the right hand yarn, which actually uses a little more yarn and creates a little bigger stitch. Because the first time I did it, I had cut the red, and when I reknit it, I didn't have enough red to go all the way around. So I thought that was just a lesson in yarn. They call it color dominance, which is really, I really learned that's a thing. So I have lots of ends to weave in because I cut the yarn. I mean, the green stopped here, so I started it again here. And then there were several rows. Oh, and this was a real pain. See the candy canes? There's huge distance between those two, and catching the floats and everything. I mean, it was definitely increased my skill set to work on these. But I think they're adorable, and even though it's not Christmas anymore, I am going to finish these because you can see how close I am. I think I have just another inch before I do the second color work section and the toe, and then I'll block these and have these for next Christmas. Not my first pair of Charlotte Stone socks, I'll tell you. I have yarn for the coffee socks, I have yarn for the autumn mice socks, and I also want to make the swan socks. They're blue socks with white swans. So, so cute and charming. So speaking of socks, my friend Carrie at My Wool Mitten Farm on Instagram and My Wool Mitten on YouTube, for the last 2 years, she's done a sock spin along, and where we spin for socks and we knit them, and we use all natural fibers. She's got a little series she did a couple years ago. It gives you really great tips on spinning for socks, nice blends to use. And I participated the first year and knit a pair of I think, boot socks. I actually wear them as slippers around the house. And this year I want to spin for another pair. I'm finding that because I spend a lot of time at home, I don't really need a real skinny sock. I like a thicker sock that I can put a slipper over. And so I'm going to participate in the sock spin along. It's going to start on January 24th. And check her channel out for more information. And yeah, just look through your fiber stash. I knit my last ones in Shetland wool with alpaca and a little bit of silk, and they were great. This year I'm going to experiment with a little mohair. I'm going to blend mohair with Shetland or maybe Romney. I haven't decided, but I'm definitely going to participate this year. So yes, if you're interested in spinning for socks, please join the My Wool Mitten sock spin along, which is coming up. All right, speaking of spinning, I've got a big pile of stuff here. So this is a project that I am working on. This beautiful orange fiber is from Hilltop Cloud. It's an old stash, deep stash. Isn't it pretty? This is what Katie calls a Bach pack. She doesn't have Shetland like this anymore at the moment, but she does have Exmoor Blueface, or a Welsh mule breed, where she gives you, an ounce, about an ounce of each, or I think 20 grams. Yeah, 20 grams of each color. So I'm spindle spinning that for a contrast for a pattern by Isabelle Kraemer called the Kallias cardigan. And I'm going to knit this out of black Welsh Mountain fiber that I'm spinning up, woolen spinning. I'm spinning it a long draw into a 2-ply worsted to light worsted yarn. I have 4 bobbins already spun up. This is an Acreworks bobbin that I treated myself to this season for my Lendrum. I wanted to see how I like the plastic bobbin for the Lendrum double treadle, and I like it a lot. Very lightweight, and it does hold a little bit more fiber than the regular wooden bobbins. But the spinning experience itself is not that different, but it is very, very nice and light. So I have 4 bobbins filled up already. I did a sample skein, and I wound it up into a hank. So I was introduced to Black Welsh Mountain last winter when I was doing a breed study. I have a breed study series that I did last year. And Black Welsh Mountain was one of the breeds. So I loved it so much that I ordered a sweater quantity from Witchwood on Etsy. And I made my dog a sweater. It doesn't fit her, right? The arms, the holes for her front paws are too widely spaced. And even after blocking, I can't get it on her easily. But so yes, I knit Peaches a jumper. I'll insert a picture here. I showed it off, I think, last time. And it's a black fiber, beautiful wool, and quite soft for its breed, I think. I don't think that the Welsh Mountain breeds are known for their softness. They're more for durability. But this yarn just has a really great handle. And I just feel that these colors in this pack are just going to pop. So the Kallias cardigan is open cardigan, no button band. And it has this type of rib pattern along the fronts, I think. I don't think it's on the whole cardigan. I'll insert a picture. And a couple of the knitters color blocked theirs. So what they did is they knit it all in one color, and then they did a stripe or a whole block of stripes, and then maybe the main color again. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to knit most of the sweater, the cardigan, in this yarn, and then I'm going to do stripes kind of lower than the waist, and just do a little stripe detail. And then I'm also going to mirror the stripes on the sleeves. I think that will be super fun, and it'll give a little pop and excitement to the cardigan. So that's my next handspun project. That will be my 3rd handspun sweater. So I'm pretty excited about that. So this is the fiber. I purchased about 20 ounces from Witchwood. I think I got a 500 gram and then I got another 100 grams. And it's a pin drafted roving in natural black. It's beautiful, beautiful, nice open preparation. And when I pull out some, I am gently, I don't like to pre-draft too much because then you just don't have anything to draft while you're spinning. But I'm kind of just opening it up, kind of fluffing it up and very gently opening it up and spinning it long draw on my wheel. You get a lot of air. Let's just go sideways. So I did do a little measurement with my sample. And what did I get? I had 112 yards and 50 grams, or 224 yards and 100 grams. And that falls right in the medium weight. So most charts will say that the medium or worsted yarn, not the type of spinning, but the thickness, is between 800 and 1,000 yards per pound. So that's a density measurement. So when you want to make a sweater and you want it to look similar to the designer's version, you want to have a yarn that has a similar grist. So like for example, the Kallias, I think, I forget what she knitted originally out of, but it appeared to be like a springy yarn. So I wouldn't make it out of this Coopworth. The Coopworth's kind of more drapey. So I compared it to woolen spun Cormo from Elsa Wool, and she has 210 yards per 100 grams. So I feel like I'm right there where I need to be. And then, well, more importantly, my gauge is spot on. So this is the ribbing pattern. Can you see the texture here? That's going to be in the piece. For those of you that are interested in more information about yards per pound and wraps per inch, etc., I found this Yarn Standards chart online. It's actually from Interweave Press, and it's about the Craft Council has worked with fiber, needle, and hook manufacturers to set up a series of guidelines and symbols to bring uniformity to patterns and yarns, yada, yada, yada. Our additions come from a variety of sources, from experience and from patterns. The chart offers guidelines, a lot of variations created by what fibers used and how it's spun. But these are useful gauges for spinners. So you have wraps per inch, yards per pound, needle recommendations, and so forth. I will link this in the description box because it's a little bit more expansive than just your typical chart that you might find. So she calls for, I think, a DK to light worsted. So this chart says 900 to 1200 is DK to light worsted. So that would put me sort of in the heavier side of that. So yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. I think I don't like to get too bogged down with technicalities, but you don't want to run out of yarn. So, if you're not getting the yardage per 100 grams or per 4 ounces, you're going to run out. So I think that's why it's important to know how many yards per pound approximately you're getting. Of course, I don't have any fancy doodad to measure yards. I took the hank of yarn and I measured it this way. And I counted the loops and then I doubled it and I estimated the yardage. I'm sure it's not exact, but it gives you a ballpark. So yeah, so I'm really excited about this project. One of the goals I have for January is to finish spinning up at least the singles for this sweater, and then apply it. I'd like to cast on pretty relatively quickly before the winter is over. So yeah, I'm really excited about that project too. So what else has been going on? In the evenings, I've been working on my Sophie shawl by Petite Knit. I think Petite Knit, I researched some of the popular designers. Maybe I'll talk about that next time. But her name's, she's Danish, Meta. I think that's the right pronunciation, or Meta. She's the petite knitter, and she's very popular. Designs very classic, elegant, very Scandinavian type, very minimalistic types of patterns. And she posted a pattern called the Sophie scarf and then the Sophie shawl. And one of my viewers recommended the Sophie shawl for some cashmere that I had in deep stash. And I took her advice, and I've been knitting this in the evenings. The Sophie shawl starts with a few stitches here and then increases every X number of rows. The only reason I have those is because the yarn had some breaks in it, so I had to start over in different places, but I've reached the halfway point, and now I'm doing the decreases. This is a heavier yarn than what's called for. This is I think it's a 10-ply yarn. It's called Plum Knit 8-ply, 50 grams, 100 yards. Recommended needle, a US 9 or a 10. So 5.5 or a 6mm needle. And I'm on my third ball, and then I have another 50 grams. So I just knit until I was a little less than halfway through my totals. So I stopped well before my second ball was completed, because I don't want to have people have lost yarn chicken making this. And so this has just been a really nice project to watch down here when we're watching television, because we don't have, the light's not real good. So cream yarn on black needles, knit. I get it. I totally get why people like to knit these, because if you have this precious yarn and you don't know what to do with it, or you have a limited amount of cashmere or something really luxurious, it's such an easy knit. There's nothing, and you get this very, simple and elegant accessory. Yes, so as one does in the winter, you binge watch programs. So we were binge watching all the Shetland series from the beginning, the ones with Jimmy Perez and Tosh. They we watched them from the beginning in preparation for the new season, which is excellent. I was a little worried without Jimmy. I don't know if it was going to be any good, but it was quite good. And I was inspired by Meg's scarf. So Jimmy, his love interest towards the end of the series is Meg. She's an Irish nurse living there in Lerwick. And she wears this scarf. And it's just basically this chevron zigzag pattern. I'm calling it Meg's scarf. I think it's just so pretty. And I thought, well, I want to make something like that. So I went online. Let me see if my yarn is here. It is. I just finished reading Clara Park's book of essays on stash. It's called A Stash of One's Own. And it's just a compilation of different people and their relationship to their yarn collection. I've got a new phrase I picked up from Penny from PJKnits podcast. She goes, I'm going to shop my PYS. She said Penny's yarn store. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to shop my LYS, Lisa's yarn store. But one of the in the intro it said most knitters, if you ask them to give you a hank of yarn, they have one within reaching distance, no matter where they are in the house. I mean, it's be told like, oh, here, I'll pull it out of this hole here. Anyways, so I was watching Shetland, and I really liked Meg's scarf. So I went online and I found a free pattern. It's called the Zick Zack scarf, and it's inspired by Italian designer Mazzoni, I think, which does a lot of chevron type designs in his work. And I picked out yarn for that project. Another project that I could just have as easy knitting. And this is the yarn I picked out for Meg's scarf here. It's Lang Milli Colori Baby. And the designer used 2 shades. And she has you cast on an extraordinary number of stitches, like 96 stitches, which would be way too wide. So I think I'm going to cast on maybe 84 plus 2 edge stitches. And so I've got 2 colors here. So this one is called, it's color 845.0056. So it's kind of a rainbow light. It has more like kind of deeper pastels. These are the same colorway. They just wound up a little bit different. So these 2. And then this color, it's got the cooler shades. This is 845.0106. And what the designer has you do is alternating the colors. So yeah. So I was doing a little tiny, it's a scarf. You don't need to do a massive gauge swatch for a scarf. But I did cast on a few stitches just with the one color, just to get an idea of my gauge. 2 other things I just wanted to mention. I have started the Traveler Shawl by Andrea Mowry. It was a newer pattern release in December, and she uses Handspun. I cast it on with a beautiful yarn from Noro. It's pretty much reversible. This is Noro yarn. Here's the colorway I chose. As much as I love these beautiful, beautiful shades of green and brown and purple, I mean, just, Noro colors are just amazing. I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a little more contrast? So I picked this up from a shop online. I think it was Mrs. Knits. And this is another colorway that I picked up. This is color 22. And the yarn base is called Tsubame. And it's 50% silk, 25% wool, and 25% polyamide. It's 600 meters and 200 grams. The recommended needle size is a US 4 to 6, or 3.5 to 4 millimeter. I'm knitting this on a 6. And the other colorway, so this is color 8. This color reminds me of springtime, when the first colors are coming up. It's just beautiful. I think that the inspiration is a springtime inspiration. Be free from existing concepts and limitations. Pursue the image in our minds, Noro said. The fiber is hand-selected, never treated with acids or harmful chemicals. Natural color creates asymmetric patterns and complex colors to mimic the beauty of nature. Wabi Sabi embraces natural imperfections. The harmony of natural variation and original character of the fibers are preserved and delivered into your hands. So I really feel like Noro is very close to what you get from a hand-spun yarn in terms of color. And what does Tsubame means? I think it means spring. Tsubame. Tsubame is a barn swallow which migrates to Japan during cherry blossom season. And it is a beloved sign of spring. So yeah, I thought this does remind me of the garden in spring. And so I thought this colorway complements beautifully. Now I have an opinion question to ask you, because the shawl consists of two. You knit these two triangular portions, and you knit. You're increasing quite rapidly, and then once you get to a certain number of stitches, you cast off here, and then you pick up along this edge, and then you knit another kind of stretched out triangle on the other side. So part of me was thinking just doing the whole first part, the first triangle in this colorway here, the 8 colorway, and then using this for the second, so that I would have 2 shawls basically, and overlapping. It would be lovely. But now as I'm knitting, I'm just dying to get into this pink. So I don't know if I should start striping this in. Is it too late? I purchased this well after I had started this, so I don't know. I mean, but again, you know, I could just do it and see how it looks, which is always the recommendation, right? Just do it and see how it looks, because you can always undo it. So, but what do you think? Do you think that I should hold off on using this color until I get to the second triangle, or should I just start striping it in? Not really sure. All right, so in terms of spinning, other than spinning up all my contrast colors for my Kallias cardigan are going to be spindle spun, these 20-gram samples. And I've picked up a tip from Andrea Mowry. What she does is she winds off her spindle spun onto these weaving bobbins, and I have some of these weaving bobbins from Ashford. Look at the colors next to the black. I mean, it's going to be so neat. So yes, I am going to, boy, did these get fuzzy in there. I am going to apply these minis from these little applying bobbins. So I've got the blue spun up. Maybe I'll apply those today and see how it looks. And then I'm dividing my fiber into 2. This is 10 grams here, and this is 10 grams here. And then I'm just applying them together. So that's what I'm doing on the way of my spindles. But I've also been playing a lot around with my blending board. So again, inspired by all the wonderful support spindle spinners out there, and a lot of them love to spin from these kinds of preparations. So people call them rolags. They're not really technically true woolen rolags in the traditional sense, but they're close enough, because you're taking your fibers, putting them all in one direction, and then rolling them up, and then spinning from this vortex of there's a circular fiber there. And these or punis, they're sometimes called punis if they're made of cotton and they're very, very tight on cotton carders. They're called punis. So people call them rolags. They're like fiber worms. And I've been making a bunch of these with some beautiful merino tussa silk that I picked up from Julie Spins here. and a bunch of other assorted fibers. So a few days ago, I turned the camera on and I filmed a little bit of my process in making these roly punis and also spinning. So I will go ahead and insert that footage here. It's a little slow TV for you as you're watching this, and you can watch. So this is Merino and Tussa in the lipstick colorway. And then this, I've had my stash forever. It's also called lipstick, and it's from Allons-y Fiber Arts when she was just pretty new with her shop. It's blending fiber, which she doesn't do anymore. And then this is some mohair kid locks. This is some other mohair that I had. I've got some cut silk. I've got some super white hand combed Corriedale. I've got some merino silk. This is from Ashland Bay. I have a little bit of onion skin dyed camel tussa. And I've got my blending board over here. I'm going to clean it off. I haven't used this in ages. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. Everybody's spinning from rolags. And here's some sari. I don't know if I'm going to put sari in there or not. But this beautiful pink, I think, matches this pink pretty well. And I think the white will give it a little pop. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and experiment and see what happens. So here I'm laying down a base layer of my main color, and then I sort of sandwich all the add-ins in between layers of the merino and layers of the Corriedale. I left this pretty much in real time to give you an idea of how long it takes to make one blending board full of rolags. In the YouTube app, you can speed up the video in case you don't want to watch it in real time. Great way to use up your hand-dyed braids. Just try to get an even layer. This is your complementary color. Don't put too much of this on there or else you get mud. Now what's next? Here, let's do this. After laying a base layer of the merino, I had fun with all the silk add-ins. And it really is akin to painting on a canvas. Here I have some Inglenook fibers, I think it's camel tussa silk, naturally dyed, and that was to echo the pollen inside the peony. So I'm calling these rolags my peony rolags. I'm using that little pet brush to force the fibers further deep into the tines of the board so I can get a thicker layer. And here I am laying down some hand-combed Corriedale fleece, pure white fleece over top. These are some kid mohair locks that I picked up at Wisconsin Sheep and Wool. And I'm opening them up, fluffing them up, and randomly placing them on the board. That's a brush that came with the blending board, and I always am careful to be very gentle as I'm brushing the fibers on the board. I like to use that little pet brush to gently brush the fibers. It sort of opens up the fibers much like the two drums do on a drum carder. So here I'm taking a little bit of the sari silk and opening it up and placing it randomly on the board. This does tend to clump up in your yarn. You do get a more textured yarn when you use these sari silk bits, but I find them to be very fun and makes for an interesting yarn. So you can see every time you add another layer, you use your brush to blend them with the other fibers that are already on the board. And here I'm taking some cut silk to add to my rolags. I think that a little bit of white fleece or white silk adds a little sparkle and dimension to the yarn. So here I've decided to add a little bit more sparkle to my rolags to get something really fairy-like and special. I keep all my Crystallina and Angelina fibers in a separate bag because it tends to just go everywhere if you've ever worked with it before. So I chose Crystallina for this blend, and it's really spinning up into a pretty yarn. Here I'm taking the philosophy of more is more, and I'm adding just a little bit more kid mohair pink locks to my blend. So you can see that even with editing this down, this is not a fast process. So when you're purchasing prepared Puni rolags from a vendor, just know that they spend a lot of time putting them together. This is a 4 times speed, and this is the last go round before I make my rolls. So I'm gently lifting up the fiber from the bottom of the board to prepare the rolls. I think I got 3 rolags out of this one board. I'm using some old knitting needles. They're quite big. They could be a little longer. I found it a little bit tricky to get it a nice smooth even roll, but I put one on top and one on the bottom, and then you basically pull up and roll, and you draft out a little bit, pulling up and rolling. And I did it a few times until I felt like my rolag was big enough, and then I took it off the board and then removed the dowels and then repeated the process 2 more times. I think this is my favorite part of the whole process, is when you pull those dowels out and you have this beautiful fiber worm to bring to your spindle. So this one is a Bjorn Peck spindle. This one is Texas Jeans in the States, and then this one is from Crivelli, one of my favorites from Crivelli. So I hope you enjoyed that little footage of me working with my blending board and spinning on my sports spindles. I will be back next week with another episode. I want to show you my completed Felix cardigan, my completed Cocoa socks, and some more fun spinning and knitting. So I hope this video found you well, and I look forward to speaking to you again real soon. Take care, friends. Until next time. Bye for now.